Welcome to our ABBIE Health Panel. Thank you to ABBIE for sponsoring this discussion. This panel is led by Professor Jan Kiselovic, Director of the Slovak Center of Scientific and Technical Information.
Okay, thank you for introducing myself, but I would like to also say good afternoon for everybody. Especially I have to say I like after lunch session. Who is here? He is happy. He started the culinary system just to listen and watch our information. However, I got excellent panel discussion, opportunity, and challenges for innovation in chronic disease. And as is usually for this meeting, I ask artificial intelligence what it will mean, this title. And again, it's absolutely realistic. They find absolutely correct answer. First of all, personal medicine. Second, internet or telehealth monitoring of patients. Third point was excellent for me because I like the advanced therapy based on gene therapies, stem cell therapies, also the tissue engineering. I like fourth point, artificial intelligence promote itself. They say the big data and artificial intelligence is also opportunities. And the last point is a special question for patients. The challenges, again, everybody knows in our community, and I will discuss about this, is regulatory hardness, high cost, data, the clinical and ethical questions, and the last, the problem about patient. Has to be for all patients or a specific patient. But what was very interesting for me, really interesting for me, is that at the end of this paragraph, artificial intelligence wrote me, please note that all the landscape of medical innovation is dynamic and there may have been significant development since my last up-to-date. It's crucial, consult with healthcare professional for the most up-to-date information, innovation therapy for specific chronic disease. And I say, wow, it's our panel. And I'm really, really absolutely happy that on the base of ABBIE support, we could collect outstanding speaker for this panel. Especially, I am happy to start with the left side. I'm trying to introduce the Professor Miloš Jeseňák, who is the president of Slovak Society Allergology and Clinical Immunology, also the head of Department of Allergology and Clinical Immunology in University Hospital in Martin. He's outstanding professor. Students love him for sure. He's outstanding promoter any innovation. Of course, I was asking him to please, I have no time to make all your graduation because he spent a lot of master studies from different positions. But however, he is really a European member of advisory boards and different type of immunology and allergology in the Europe. It's my pleasure to introduce Professor Miloš Jeseňák. The second in line is my big friend, very old. It's Professor Peter Valkovič. Old friends, I'm old, he's young. This kid is still going to the basic elementary school. And what is very interesting for him, he is first vice dean of medical faculty in Bratislava, also head of Department of Neurology of University Hospital, also the vice president for Neurology, again, outstanding professor, good scientist, and also very nice person. I'm happy to introduce Professor Peter Valkovič in our panel. And what is new for me, absolutely new, and is also new for Slovakia, is Anthony Della Croce from Italy, but he's not from Italy. He's traveling as a head of regional ABBIE systems. Now he's chief of Czechoslovakia. Yes, perfect, no? the Czech Republic and Slovakia, but you will be understand there's very different nations due to health system, and you will be recognize differences. However, I'm more than happy to be that you are here in our panel, and also will be introduce our company and strategy of your company here. Thank you to coming. Thank you. Okay, I will put the first very short question just to warm up. What does it mean innovation therapy for you personally? I will start with you, Antonio.
Well, for me personally, it means, yes, probably it's better to use this. Of course, it has a lot to do with the company I work for. And it's one, I think it's the main scope of our activities is to find innovative therapies that can solve problems, therapeutical problems that are not solved today. So help physicians to support patients and to change their lives. So it's really what we stand for as a company. We really live on innovation. Then, of course, in private life, I think we all had, let's say, unfortunately, the opportunity to deal with disease directly or through friends or families, and see how important it is to have access to innovative therapy. So I think that for me, as a professional of the pharmaceutical industry and as a citizen, is something that is critical, and it's a fundamental factor in improving the people's lives and quality of life for the future.
Okay, best.
Thank you. So, innovative therapies or innovative approach. I graduated in medicine in 2000, and it's only 23 years ahead. And I must say, the medicine completely changed. In those years, we had very simple situation. Many disorders were coupled under one umbrella, but with extending research, new information, new research, new implementation of innovation, including processing of data, we recognize that the patient who looked like the same as his neighbor is not the same one, because the therapy works in one, but not in the second. So it means that we must orient our thinking in personalized manner. So innovation in general is very important principle, actually in exponential functional way. It grows our knowledge, but also needs better understanding. As Antonio said, it is very important to look up to the patient and to change our thinking from God to guide. And we are on the same level with the patients, and also the innovation helps to understand each other and to improve everybody's life.
Well, basically, I hope that I will be the first one who will respond, and now it's quite tricky to find something else and something different to those guys. But basically, for me, innovative treatment means three most important characteristics. One is hope, another one is personalization, and the last one is game changer. The hope means that currently, when I see I'm working 20 years in the field of rare disease, and what I see is that innovative treatment brings hope even to those disorders and for those patients in which, like several years ago, we were not able to tell something about true prognosis, something about the changes of life, something about the achievement of disease control and even remission. This is the first thing. Second one is personalization. Currently, we can subdivide it and substratify all the chronic disorders, not only rare, but also those which are quite common. And we can just modify the treatment approach by selection, the most appropriate treatment for particular patients, and achieving the best treatment results, and also the best safety, of course. And the last one is game changer in two ways. I think the innovative treatment is absolutely changing whatever we can just connect to especially rare diseases and to severe diseases. But on the other hand, the game changer is also in the ethical view, because what is the price of the life? What is the price of the quality of life compared to the quite high costs which are connected with innovative treatment? And therefore, we have HTA agencies and all the other guys which are able to help us and to tell what is the true price for such maybe expensive treatment. From my point of view as a physician who is treating the disorders which are rare, which are for example genetic inherited, for example in hereditary angioedema, which is a rare disease in 1 in 50,000 citizens, as I remember. And I have 5 generations of families, and when I see the oldest one, how they are enthusiastic and happy when they see what happened during the last 10 years. So currently it's something absolutely incredible, but of course it puts on our arms big responsibility, the true and precise selection of the patients, the evaluation of the price of the medicament compared to the treatment efficacy. So still we're just looking forward what will we see in the next few years. Like 5 years ago, we didn't think that we will have the opportunity to see, for example, gene therapy, which is something incredible. Of course, it's too expensive, but on the other hand, it's something which is absolutely changing our strategies in the treatment, another mode of thinking in the treatment of the patients.
Thank you very much. It is the starting point. And now we go for deeper discussion. I will ask Antonio firstly start to speak how your company changed paradigm.
Yes.
To fighting against disease, to go and restore health and make patients' life better.
So maybe let's start from a little bit of history of ABBIE. ABBIE is a relatively new company because it's born in 2013, but in reality is a company with a very long history because it was born from the separation from Abbott, a company that probably many of you have heard, very active now in medical devices, especially diagnostics, especially in diabetes. At that time, Abbott decided to divide the pharmaceutical part from the diagnostic part because they are very different, especially we're talking about innovation and the way you do research in the two areas is very different. So in terms of focalization and prioritization, it was difficult for Abbott as such a diversified company to channel the resources in the right way. So they decided to split. So we are 2 different companies starting from 2013, but we can say that we have a lot of history from starting from 1883 when Abbott was started by Dr. Wallace Abbott in North Chicago, where still we and Abbott have the headquarters. So we're born in January 23. Now it's a company with more than 50,000 employees all over the world, acting in, of course, several countries, treating conditions, more than 75 conditions. We were actually, that's also a good story because when we started, we were mainly active in immunology, so let's say 80%, and with one drug. and 10 years later, we are active in several more areas. We have a very wide pipeline. I will say something, a little bit something more later on. But definitely it has developed a lot. So it's a good example of entrepreneurship, why one very good drug helped creating research and development for many other conditions and many other areas. Just about something about us as people also within the companies, and we of course are very conscious that we are working in the pharmaceutical, in healthcare, and then so we have a very strong principle that drive us. We want to transform lives, which is part of also innovation therapies, but acting always with integrity because it's clear that we have responsibility in front of the patients first. We want to drive innovation. I would say more, we live about, without innovation, ABBIE would not exist. We embrace diversity and inclusions because we are a global company, so we want to be respectful of all the cultures, all the people. Finally, we want to serve the community we live in, so we try not to be good citizens also, not only a company doing business in a country. We have many partners, so we don't do innovation alone. We work with a lot of institutions and universities, from drug discovery until research and development, clinical studies. We could not do innovation alone, so we try to take the best partners to work with every time. Around in say diversity and inclusions, we are a company, of course, that is also proud to represent not only the different genders, but any kind of cultural religions. And we are a great place to work. We were certified in Slovakia last week as a great place to work. Great Place to Work is a company that does this kind of surveys in companies. It's not present in Slovakia, but it's present in Poland. They work also in Slovakia, but actually they do surveys and they can certificate as a great place to work. This is something that we do in every country we are. So we try to always to be a great place where people want to work, pleasant, and where we are in harmony with each other. In terms of our task, it's develop R&D, research and development mainly. We spent 7 billion only last year in 2022 only in research and development. Since inception, 2013, we have spent, it was in the previous slide, $55 billion of dollars in research and development. This is about the cost also of therapies, of innovation. It's impressive, but it's necessary. You have to have this kind of muscles, let's say, to be able to invest properly to achieve your results. We have more than 240 clinical trials in more than 55 countries, more than 80 compounds in our pipeline. 50 of them are mid and late stage development, because of course the majority that are lost in the initial development phases, so this is where the risk is the highest. But unfortunately, sometimes we know that we arrive at late stage, phase 3, and then we lose the drug because of new and unexpected safety concern, for instance, and we have to drop everything after having spent several billions in the research and development. But that's the game we are in, so we accept it, of course. And then we have not more than 110 studies that are planned already for the futures in several therapeutic areas. This is actually my last slide that I wanted to highlight. Immunology, again, where we started from, but now we have an incredible pipeline in oncology in several areas. We are very strong today in hematology, but we have many compounds for the treatment of solid tumors in development. This is the area probably where I have to say also we have failed the most. So where actually the risk that we have taken, unfortunately, didn't give the results. As an example, we invested strongly, but it's very, very difficult to come with a new drug that is effective and safe and bring it to the market. But we continue, and we have a very strong pipeline on that as well. Neuroscience, with I think here very well known products for treatment of Parkinson and also migraine. But in the future, we are very committed for the treatment of Alzheimer's, for example. We are active in eye care because 3 years ago we acquired Allergan, a company that had a strong legacy in the eye care area and also in aesthetics. That's why this is mentioned. Aesthetics is managed totally separated from the rest of the pharmaceutical part, but it's still part of ABBIE. And then we have several specialties areas that come from several other products that we had or we acquired by Allergan. But the areas where we're still investing very strongly, I would say, in the part in pharmaceutical part, are immunology, oncology, neuroscience, and eye care. And that's probably will. Sorry, just the last slide here, just to say again that beyond our ability to create innovations, we are really active and recognized as a company that also has a very strong participation in the community and is recognized as a great place to work.
Okay, thank you very much, because I recognize that at the end, telling all my students that it's one of the leader of innovation in a system. And for the reasons that you are doing innovation, we try to make decisions that our panel will be not discuss about oncology. This idea just kills the disease, and we try to speak about innovation in treatment of patient symptoms, prevention, also some strategy to just improve life of our patients, and I will be happy to.
So I am a neurologist, so head of the Department of Neurology. So my topic is neurology. I have two topics. One is Parkinson's disease, a neurodegenerative disorder, and the second one is very common disorder named migraine. So Parkinson's disease is progressive neurodegenerative disorder that starts many years ago before it develops with its pivotal signs like bradykinesia, motor slowness, rigidity or stiffness, problems with tremor or postural instability with falls. But as the disease progresses, the treatments, mostly oral ones, with golden standard, I am going to speak about in more detail, with levodopa or dopaminergic agonist. The patient develops fluctuation within its motor stage. It means that after ingestion or application of this oral therapy, a couple of minutes or hours, he is in his good stage. It means with nice, smooth movements without tremor or very small one. But then, when the concentration of the drug falls down in his plasma or the brain, then he develops or experiences problems again with the typical Parkinsonian symptoms like stooped posture, motor slowness, severe pains, depression, anxiety, panic, etc., etc. So it is very important to smooth the level of the plasmatic level of the drug in order to have something what we call continuous dopaminergic stimulation. These two guys are colleagues. One is chemical engineer and the second one is a clinician. These are Birgmeier and Hornikiewicz, who are actually who were working like 60 kilometers from Bratislava, from Vienna, and they made a huge research on the clinical effect of several drugs in treatment of Parkinson's disease, and they developed levodopa. This is a product of dopamine, because we know that the dopamine is a crucial neurotransmitter failing in the brains of Parkinsonians. So the treatment with levodopa is still a golden standard. So each drug we develop is compared like in conventional armory industry, something with trinitrotoluene, we have golden standard levodopa. And there is a problem with delivery, because after several years, when patient uses 3 or 5 doses or daily doses of levodopa, and his clinical state is still very nice, and you can't recognize whether patient suffers from any disease, then the therapeutic window narrows, and he experiences this motor fluctuation. That's very important. Okay, so this is a video, as you can see, the patient with stooped posture, problems with walking, risk in falling. And now the same patient is on levodopa. So you see some motor slowness, but there is another patient who has a severe dyskinesia. This is like overdosing, but these patients could experience all 3 stages, what we call off, is switched off, like the first one, this, or nicely moving, this is on stage, or peak of those dyskinesias, these harmful, very bizarre movements where he can fall or make any accidents. So here you can see the schematic drawing where we depict a striatal dopamine concentration, so dopamine in the brain. This is what you can see after administrations of levodopa in the brains of Parkinsonian patients, and this is ideal. Excuse me. This is ideal situation where we continuously deliver the drug within the therapeutic window. So in order to have a patient still in a very good shape. So when could we say that the patient may not be well controlled on their current treatment? When he takes more than 5 pills or daily doses of oral treatments, he experiences of these off times, many hours in his waking time, and troublesome dyskinesias, as you could see in this patient with blue shirt. So now is the time for innovation. So I'd like to introduce innovation. This is intestinal continuous infusion pump. This pump delivers gel or suspension with levodopa directly via gastrostomy. It is borne in the stomach into small intestine where the levodopa is directly absorbed, and this could be delivered continuously. So we are trying to get this shape of the curve. So first innovation was introduced in 2015. Now we have more than 200 patients in Slovakia. So this is also very extensively used also in Slovak patients. But what we are expecting in next days is subcutaneous continuous infusion for advanced PD. So this is very similar like this pump where any kind of invasive therapy had to be performed. Now only with small needle, like many of you could have information about treatment of severe diabetes mellitus with subcutaneous pumps. So the same principle is here. And over 24 hours, you could have delivery of the drug by means of this very small portable pump. So the patient has very nice prognosis, and he could have very nice quality of life, and also the service around and the complications and any safety issues are lowered in a very reasonable way. So where are the innovations now? As you can see, there is a pump, there is a way of delivery, and also there is a prodrug, not the levodopa, but this is phosph-levodopa, because the abilities of levodopa as such are not that very convenient for subcutaneous or skin applications. So this system shares or merges three special therapeutic innovation in Parkinson's disease. Other instance is migraine, a headache disorder. As you may see, this is the second leading cause of disability in the table of global burden of disease. So very severe problem causing many disabilities, not only personal ones, but also economic, etc., etc. Here, for example, in Europe, 95 milliards for Slovak, so billion euro per year are spent for not only for treatment, but mostly for lost activities and lost years in good quality of life in patients with migraine. So what are the treatment strategies? We have two simultaneous strategies. One strategy is to kill the attack. So we call it also as abortion of the attack. So abortive therapy or acute treatments. It means you take, for example, ibuprofen or diclofenac for headache. Many of us, probably all of us, have such experiences. But if the number of attacks per month is very high, or we also consider other problems like very severe attacks, associated problems like vomiting or bad auras with problems with visual field, etc., etc. The preventive strategies or preventive or prophylactic treatment is very needed and is of need. So what are the strategies for migraine prevention? Let's discuss about so-called stepwise principle. So in level A medications are actually anti-epileptic drugs delivered for treatment or healing the epilepsy, like topiramate, valproic acid, divalproex, natrium, etc., etc. Then typical cardiacs like beta blockers, so propranolol, metoprolol, or some of the class from acute treatment, triptans. But one of them, frovatriptan, also available here, is also sometimes effective for migraine prevention because due to its longer half-life. The second, level B, are not that well committed by evidence-based medicine principle. Some antidepressants like amitriptyline, sometimes beta blockers and other triptans. But existing preventive therapies have been repurposed from other indications. So they are not originally developed for migraine as such. It doesn't have to be a serious problem when it works. Often associated with poor tolerability and lack of efficacy. For instance, in registration studies with topiramate, as I mentioned, it is anti-epileptic. Only 25% of patients could persist or be adherent to the treatment after 1 year. So only 1/4 of the initial population. So this is very bad. So newer preventive treatments are from these categories. One very interesting is the use of botulinum toxin, not only for aesthetic reasons, but also for treatment of chronic migraine. It works perfectly. We deliver it also in Slovakia in several centers. So after the session, I could be part of the discussion as well. But the third decade of the third millennium, where are we now, is named or called sometimes a decade of headache or decade of migraine, because these developments like CGRP antagonist, this is calcitonin gene-related peptide, which is very important substance or neuromediator involved in headache. An antagonist of this peptide are now broadly used not only in Europe but also in Slovakia. These are monoclonal antibodies. They have very few adverse events and perfect efficacy. So, as you can see, the stepwise approach, the second line are CGRP therapies, and next generation, like ahead, expecting in next month, are not therapies applied by subcutaneous injections or intravenous administration, but small molecules, oral or pills, oral therapies called Japans. So let's discuss after my presentation something more. And this is also kind of innovation. So in the field of Parkinson's disease, I stressed the importance of innovation in the system, in new devices for delivery of all drugs. Now I introduce new drugs here in the field of therapy of migraine. So the efficacy, the safety is very important, but of course, another factor called the price of disease or price of treatments is also very important, and probably we are going to discuss it later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And to fill our puzzle from neurodegenerative disease, migraine, we go for topics for Professor Jeseňák and this dermatitis.
So basically, it's very funny to do the lecture in this post-digestive coma, but I will try to be a little bit easy and simple, because I would like to speak about atopic dermatitis, which is one of the most common skin disorders. If I may speak about my specialization and about all the innovation I'm meeting in daily life and daily practice, I can start with rare disease, with severe bronchial asthma, with atopic dermatitis, and with many other disorders we are treating in our centers. But basically, I'm a clinical immunologist. I'm treating the patients since 0 age till 100 and something, depending on the lifespan. And I really love that the immunology was the first area of medicine in the ABBIE portfolio, because the immunology is the queen in the medicine, because we are infiltrating in whatever part. And currently, we are asked by many colleagues from the other specialization to help them, to help their patients to treat some immune-mediated complications and disorders. But I will be focusing on something which is very common. It's very funny that in Europe and USA, the prevalence of atopic dermatitis is much more higher compared to Asia and to some other Eastern countries. And currently, atopic dermatitis is affecting up to 10% of general population, but not every patient has severe forms of atopic dermatitis. So I'll be speaking, this is very similar because the course of atopic dermatitis, especially of the severe patients, is something like sinusoid. There are some bad days, there are some good days, but in general, every time the bad days will come for sure in the future. So basically, we are speaking about the chronic skin disorders, can begin in whatever age, but basically, the sooner severe atopic dermatitis starts, the worst prognosis will be during the life and will be usually for the whole life. The patients have objective signs like skin affection, scratching, xerodermia, and some other typical signs in the general appearance of the patients. But basically, more important for the many patients are the subjective signs, and especially pruritus or itching of the skin. Sometimes the pruritus is so severe that we see the development of psychiatric disorders in patients. They have insomnia, they have loss of productivity in the work, they are not able to concentrate on whatever parts of the work, of the social life, and all the other domains of the life. So basically, we are focusing in the treatment strategy not only on the objective symptoms, but especially we would like to suppress and to absolutely negotiate the pruritus, which is sometimes the leading sign of the patients and the leading problems. It's not classic allergic disease. This is one dogma which can be seen also even during the medical studies, that atopic dermatitis is allergic. It is not allergic. This is chronic skin inflammation with small proportion of the allergic inflammation. There are a lot of associated comorbidities, complications, typical It has relapsing remittent curves, so classical sinusoid, bad days, good days. Sometimes the bad days are for several weeks. There are high risk of infectious, the herpetic complication, fungal, bacterial complication are very, very dangerous for the patients. And of course, the insufficient and bad therapy leads to the very worst prognosis of this patient. And sometimes non-treated the atopic dermatitis is so bad, like badly treated dermatitis, unfortunately. In the treatment approach, there are some overestimated things like the diet. Usually diet doesn't have anything to do with the atopic dermatitis, and the patients are trying to exclude a lot of foods like milk, egg, wheat, and so on, but basically they don't see any effects on the course of atopic dermatitis. And what is need for treatment complexity, we should focus not only on the skin, but also on the systemic inflammation. And of course, we would like to improve every part, every domain of quality of life of these patients. Two important numbers. 44% of patients with atopic dermatitis, especially moderate to severe forms, have suicidal thinking, and 1/3 of this patient has also the suicide happening in the life, unfortunately. Therefore, we should be very, very pragmatic and very, very, actually, I can say drastic and dramatic in the treatment. We should do whatever we can do just to improve this patient. Of course, we have some objective scoring system because we would like to see what is the degree of the patient, what is severity, and what is the treatment response in these patients. We are using two. SCORA, this scoring on atopic dermatitis, this is the abbreviation, and then we have EASI, which is another scoring system. The maximum points are 103, and for this one, 72 points. This is important because I would like to just present you one of my patients, and these numbers will be very important just to see how the innovative treatment can change the life and can change the disease course of these patients. Some of my pictures, these are since I'm treating also the children, as you see, this is such dramatic appearance of the small boy with atopic dermatitis without any response to the treatment. We were forced to start, it was like 7 years ago, with some older medication because at that time we do not have any other options. Fortunately, currently the situation is absolutely changed in the last 2 or 3 years. Another clinical signs of the atopic dermatitis. So basic pillars of the treatment, we would like to interrupt the vicious circle because the most important and principal crucial thing in development of atopic dermatitis is defective skin barrier. So it leads to the increased penetration of the allergen irritants from the outside, from the environment, and of course, water loss from the skin. It leads to the irritation with inflammation and to itching. And of course, patient starts to scratch. The more the patient scratches, the more intense pruritus will be. So therefore, by the intensive treatment, we should interrupt this vicious circle. Of course, by moisturizing of the skin, by emollients, we have topical local anti-inflammatory treatment. In this field of the medicine, there are some innovations, some new molecules which are currently available for topical application. Diet, usually without any efficacy. Of course, corticosteroids with all of side effects, even in short courses. Because some of the patients, some of the people are just think that, okay, 3 or 4 days with corticosteroids, it's nothing dangerous. Basically, if you see the cumulative dose of the corticosteroids in severe atopic dermatitis patient, it has so negative impacts on the future life, increased risk of osteoporosis, increased risk of infectious, immunosuppression, and other complications which can be connected. Therefore, fortunately, we have systemic therapy, the older one, but also the innovative treatment. So also the approach in the treatment of this patient changed across the decades. From search for the cause and improvement of the skin appearance, currently we move to attenuation of the pruritus and amelioration of the insomnia. Some of these patients don't sleep even, they sleep 1 or 2 hours, then 2 hours awake, 2 hours, 2 hours awake. And of course, currently innovative treatment is tried to suppress and modulate the particle type of the inflammation. So from skin moisturizing and diet, we move to topical anti-inflammatory therapy, and then currently we have systemic therapy. Corticosteroids for short courses, several days, then cyclosporine, which is like senior in the field of systemic treatment. It's more than 60 years in which the cyclosporin is available. Then 5 years ago, there was the first important innovation. This was the monoclonal antibody against the interleukin 4 and 13, which are important in the pathogenesis of atopic dermatitis. But I should say that more striking innovation appeared like 1 or 2 years ago, and this is the inhibitors of JAK inhibitors, this genus kinase, this very specific signaling molecule strongly involved in the presentation of atopic dermatitis. So one short case report, all the pictures are with the consent of the patients, of course. So this is 17 years old boy. This was some pictures before the first examination at the center. As you see, strong affections of the flexural part on the lower and upper limbs. Of course, the predominance of skin affections were on the head and on the neck. Patients has very severe pruritus, was not able to study appropriately, wasn't able to concentrate on the school activities, and of course, another important thing is that there was a mobbing from his schoolmates. Of course, he didn't want to go to school due to the appearance of the skin and so on. So these are some. As you see, there is no affections of the trunk, but as you see, the strong affection on the limbs and on the head, it's absolutely severe forms of atopic dermatitis. This is the first examination in our center. You can see there is a generalized form of atopic dermatitis with affection of approximately 70% of whole body area. Some other pictures, the affection of the skin with severe pruritus. This is also the infectious bowel bacteria, unfortunately. And the SCORAD was 72. As you remember, SCORAD was between 0 and 103. So currently we are in the severe forms of atopic dermatitis. We started the treatment with cyclosporin because at that time we didn't have any other possibility. And moreover, before the indication of monoclonal antibody, there was a condition by the payers that the patients should start with the cyclosporin and we should confirm the failure of this treatment. So we started the dose of 3 milligrams per body weight per day. As you see, the clinical response was only moderate. We dropped from 73 to currently to 55 points, nothing special, I should say. And still, the pruritus and itching of the skin was persistent. Therefore, we decided to indicate the innovative treatment, which is the dupilumab, so interleukin 4 and 13. So this was before the treatment. SCORAD unfortunately dropped only to 45. Nothing special. What I expect from the innovative treatment. After 3 months, there was quite good response. As you see, the redness was a little bit attenuated. The skin symptoms was a little bit better. There were some chronic changes on the lower limbs and on the upper limbs with a score at approximately 35. This was quite nice, but still we are in the region of moderate atopic dermatitis. And then we started to calculate also the second scoring system due to the indication for next innovative treatment because it's connected with easy score. Unfortunately, after 7 months, there was very important side effect, which is the conjunctivitis, so affection of the eyes, and these are the side effects of the dupilumab, of the innovative treatment. So therefore, we decided that we will switch, or as you see, the scoring system once again increased. So then we decided to start innovative treatment by JAK inhibitors. Upadacitinib, as you see, this is the response on the trunk after the 3 months, response on the upper limbs, on the lower limbs, and as you remember, as you see, the response to the neck. So currently we have the scoring system. SCORAD is approximately 20 and easy score is 2. So currently we are in the field of mild atopic dermatitis, something absolutely incredible, I should say. And what is the most important challenge in the field of atopic dermatitis? We should change our previous habits and our previous strategies, and I think that we should adapt to the new important things, and these are the innovative treatment. And as you see, also between the innovations, there are some differences. So therefore, it's very important to stratify the selection of innovative treatment according to all the objective and subjective characteristics of the patient. And by this, you can achieve quite striking, evident, dramatic clinical response. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now you understand why we have longer introduction to show that innovation in medicine is not very easy. Innovation in medicine takes times and times also of our patients. Now you understand why innovation medicine costs billions, because you have to focus in different point of view. And now understand word of Antonio is a start. We are focused on patient life. It means sometimes we cannot kill the disease, but you can help the patient, dramatically help the patient, especially delayed clinical problems in the future. Okay, now it's time for discussion. And first of all, please, do you have any questions? Do you have any idea? Or we can start discuss on the base of artificial intelligence. Please, the gentleman in the corner.
Many thanks for your nice presentations. You certainly convinced me of your nice efforts to explore innovative treatment. Then I'm curious whether you also experiment with innovative redesigns of your research processes, also in view of the high cost that you mentioned. And I must admit that when you were explaining this, let's say, rather ad hoc experimentation that you observe with patients that explore what the effects of food and so forth. I think this knowledge is typically exchanged word of mouth with what people do, and then they feed it back to their doctors. So then thinking of potential redesigns, I was thinking of potentially considering that your company would deploy a mobile application enabling the voluntary registration of these citizen experiments upon an explicit opt-in for you to then collect big data rather than only informal wisdom in word-of-mouth processes. Any ongoing efforts along these lines, or do you envision, if not then that you ever go in that direction, or would you rather keep your hands off that, say, sensitive data?
Data are a very sensitive topic. It's true, and and I think we are probably far from finding the best approach to usage of big data for. I mean, of course, when you look at research and development today, there is a lot of data protection, so patients' data are very well protected, anonymized, and so on. When, of course, you start introducing technology, like applications, it's even more complex. But I would say that we already have explored for both research and development and for also products that are already marketed, some applications that through third parties, or in a way that we cannot collect specific data from the patients, but can help the patient manage the disease in a better way. But I agree that this is an unexplored territory where I think not only pharmaceutical companies, but I think in partnership with physicians, researchers, institutions, Ministry of Health, I think it's could be really bring a lot of advantages for patients. Today, we still try to understand what are the boundaries in terms of data management. But if we can, in the future, really guarantee that the data are property of the patient, I think there is a lot we can do for many diseases, talking about atopic dermatitis, but also allergies or other neurological diseases. There is a lot to do for, and there are a lot of startups already that are working on that. In my previous experience in Portugal, I was general manager for Portugal, and we were part of an innovation ecosystem created by the Nova University in Lisbon. And we actually did some open innovation research. So we entered in contact with many startups, European startups, on solving common problems that were not specifically related to our drugs, but to the disease that our drugs contribute to cure or disease. And I have seen many brilliant ideas. Some of them used artificial intelligence already. Some other were more, let's say, focused on patient well-being, also physical activity, understanding also of treatment targets and what can achieve. I think we mentioned EAI, for instance, but there are many treatment scores that the patient can better understand and maybe see and track on its own to understand how is disease going, for instance.
I could get the comment, the big data is the biggest issue in medicine today. Generally, I can say that it's on the basis of law, either national or the European law, because now we have any data about any box of drugs. We collected any information how drugs is going from a factory up to patient to find opposite way if something happened. The safety, also the originality of this drug. Second point, what is very crucial, is now clinical trials. Collection, any data about clinical trials is big data because only your company has more than 240 running clinical trials with thousands of patients. And now, on the base of law, you have to find individual, any patients in this data. What is the problem? Is artificial intelligence. Why? Because anybody is different. Anybody is different. Diagnosis, status, genetic, phenotype. Okay. It means that how to use artificial intelligence is a major problem for medicine right now. For doctor, also for a Ministry of Health, also for insurance company. Because the first sentence is here written in the personal needs. It means the first question is, who can be absolutely fit to the innovative medicine? For the reason big data exist. Big data is collected on the basis of rules. Any doctor has to collect data about patients. It's collected to our special institutes. The problem is how to analyze this data and how to use this data. Okay. Is there any other questions?
Maybe I could comment. You hit the target. You hit the target. Thank you very much. One small remark on this topic. We Slovaks are still not a startup nation. Okay, but hopefully this environment improves in a couple of years. Hopefully. What is very important is not only to collect digital data, but also biological ones. So we here in Slovakia are building up biobanking network with the National Biobank in Martin and many other smaller disease-specific or other specialized biobanks. Also with close cooperation and data transfer with digital biobank in Žilina. So this is also very important, not only from the national proudness side of view, but also for pharmaceutical companies, international collaboration on international projects and everything. So, etc. So this biobanking is also issue connected with artificial intelligence, also with data processing, also with GDPR, and discussions like this one are very important. Hopefully, the people in decisive sphere, as they say, okay, these politicians, will listen to us, and people like like here, gathered here, in order to speed up all this process, at least at the level of certain European quality. So,
Maybe a short comment from the clinical point of view. Besides all the data which are collected by clinical trials like phase 2, 3, and 4, still there is a big ongoing post-registration studies because we know that the clinical trials are a little bit artificial conditions. Therefore, it's very important to see also innovative treatment in post-registration era, just to see the true effect, in this case, effectiveness, not efficacy, because efficacy is the outcome from clinical trials, and the real world data we see the effectiveness. And what is quite astonishing that by collecting this data, usually at the national or international level, usually pharma free, because it's absolutely in the gestures of the scientific societies. In many countries, many cases, we just confirm the effectiveness, which is sometimes much more better compared to efficacy from the clinical trials. And besides this, also the pharmacovigilance, just to see the long-term data and just to see the safety of these innovations. Because unfortunately, in certain cases, the post-registration studies, even in the medicaments which are already introduced for the clinical use, just show that there are some unexpected warning signs and some of the medicaments were stopped. So still, I think the connection between the preclinical use and then the true real-world data is very important and interesting source of the data. It's necessary to have this data because if we have such expensive innovative treatment, we see that they are really working in the real-world conditions and they are also safe. This is quite important for me. And for example, in dupilumab, in case of the JAK inhibitors, I don't know these numbers. But in dupilumab, I think at the beginning of this year, there were 500,000 treated patients by dupilumab, which is quite astonishing just to see such huge number of the patients, which confirm the efficacy but also safety of these medicaments.
And if I may, for a moment, this connects a lot with the cost point. And investing in registries that are independent, managed by scientific societies. Some we believe a lot. We have been supported many registries in several countries. Although I personally think this it's always a missed opportunity by governments and because I think if a Minister of Health supporting registries would have enormous advantages from those data and owning those data, because also the question, the matter of cost, the costs are always, so the prices of the drug are always evaluated from the clinical trials, but sometimes you can do, and I think pharmaceutical industry is quite open to look at risk-sharing approaches or other ways of funding innovation on the long term, but not just on a single negotiation that you do that day, based on the data that you have and that your competitor have, and sometimes they don't even are data that are comparable, but they are compared, no, because it's the only data that you have. Instead, if you could use registries and data to follow the history, the story of innovative therapies and see how they work, how their efficacy is, safety, how they compare with other therapies. What kind of advantage do they bring in terms of work productivity? So, and not looking at the price of the drug. These are all these data that would enormously contribute in understanding if, as a community, and here I'm in the side of the citizens, we are spending well our money or not, and less concentrated on the price that is on the box of a drug that to me doesn't say a lot. It can be perception of a very high cost or very low cost, but maybe the very high cost is very effective and brings a lot of advantages, and maybe the low cost sometimes doesn't bring anything and maybe it's wasted money. So, but if without data, you will not know it. So it's a very important.
We open two very important questions, gentlemen. First, everybody thinking that innovative medicine is experimental. what is not absolutely true. That's what Professor say. More than 500,000 people in Slovakia is treated. Say maybe a couple of millions is treated by innovative medicine in Slovakia, our patient. It is not experiment. Our clinical trials and post-clinical trials, real trial, is not experiment. It's absolutely duty to do these studies because we have to find really new strategy. And it's not happen like in mobile phone. You have new mobile phone, new camera, new car. For medicine, we have no such a jumps. We just change paradigm of treatment, strategy of treatment, and you see nicely in neurological disease also in your patient, how step by step, couple of years was changing system. And then it's question of money. Then it's question of expenses of study. If somebody is treated 10 years in maybe cheaper drugs, but more complication, more money, or we can immediately start to treat it with absolutely top, maybe more expensive, but for the future, less economic eating budget from our system.
In the case of atopic dermatitis, I think it's a case where patients spend a lot of money because of the ineffectiveness of treatment. They spend a lot of money on their own. They're not even on the radar, but they spend really a lot of money for many, many other things that they think they can help them, and sometimes they don't.
But it is also for Parkinson's disease, yes. We didn't treat the patient, we helped the patient.
You wanted to ask once again?
Thanks for picking that up. I wanted to reply to, let's say, this comment on the use of the term experiment. And I agree with you that, of course, from the classical drug development point of view, what you're doing is certainly not experimental or so. I was instead, in my original question, challenging you to rethink how you could give this post-market launch data for the current safety purposes a new meaning. In the context of self-reported data of patients that experiment just based on their lifestyle, food intake, physical activity, because I think, for that, it would be much more expensive if you would run your classical trials again with your existing drugs. And then I really welcome you to rethink what is even possible within the current legislation with opt-in paradigms, where I think it's very well justifiable that ultimately you're doing this thing for the public good, right? And I think then the ethical values prevail in discussing the further legislation. So that's why I mentioned experiments. So citizen experimentation, citizen science, if you wish, leading towards personalized medicine, not in the context of, let's say, personal microbiome or what have you, but just a combination of classic drug plus lifestyle factors.
Okay. For this point, I want to introduce my field of medicine is cardiovascular, and you'll be surprised how big data is collected from city science, as you call correctly. I like this title, due to smart watches, mobile phone, and cardiologists try to collect this data through this company, because you are sending huge number of data about your blood pressure, about your breathing, about your temperature, now oxygen level, etc., etc. And this data is not under question how to use it.
Yeah. Yes. So, but then let's visit again the stakeholders. So you mentioned indeed in cardiovascular disease management, you have the patient and you have the cardiologist, and it falls still, even though it's now, let's say, datafied and sensorized with technologies, it's still in the informal spheres. In walks a patient, hey, dear doctor, I've got this Apple Watch. And I was then inviting a big industry player like you to find your new position in making that more structural.
Yeah, it is in process. Yesterday was ethical commission from Bratislava, and there was 2 projects about telemedicine on the base of mobile phones and communication with patient on the base of a pharmacy, patient, and doctors. It is everybody is working about this data. It's huge data, it's perfect data, but unfortunately, how to analyze it? This is a question.
And there is a legislation also aspect, because I believe, I agree with you, this should become also part of registration of clinical trials, for instance. How can we use this now, follow really the patients through wearable and all these applications. But the point is that if you look at the legislation today, when you have to, what kind of data are required in order to register a drug at EMA, at FDA, we are still a little bit now old. And at the end, sort of registrational trials do not have a lot of room for innovation, let's say. But it's something that will come probably slow. It comes at a slower rate than the innovation itself, but it will come.
I understand that these authorities or registration bodies are a little rigid, let's say, but probably they have to be because they are somehow saving the safety as well as costs, etc., etc. But what is a very important issue in connection with what you asked is to involve objectifying of information. It means, for example, to use digital biomarkers on behalf of or changing the paradigm to use objective biomarkers, digital biomarkers, not the scales or the responses on questions of physicians or some scores made by naked clinical eye. So it is what you mentioned with wearables, like pulse rate and heart rate and everything. But you can now also objectify the way of speaking, the correctness of language, of number of language mistakes. You could objectify memory skills,
Walking,
in all of
moving.
walking, movement, everything what is connected with medicine as such.
Okay. We open a lot of questions. Unfortunately, you want to ask question?
Yeah.
Please.
I wanted to ask, you mentioned genes. Thank you. So you mentioned gene therapy as something, something feasible, but which actually conditions can be treated by it already? I understood that it's expensive and that it is really, it has a lot of perspectives, but I'm not really sure how it's used at the moment.
Depending on the countries, this is the first thing, depending on the prevalence of particular disease, which is treated by gene therapy. Currently, as I remember, there are 3 registered gene therapies. One is for very specific severe combined immunodeficiency. This gene therapy is applied only in one center in Europe. This is in Milano. And then we have new 2 innovative gene therapy. One is for spinal muscular atrophy. This is better questions from neurologists than immunologists. And for example, in Slovakia, we expect 2 to 3 children born every year. What is crucial for gene therapy is to have some sensitive screening marker in which you can detect this patient before the onset of the clinical symptoms, and we have the newborn screening. So currently, gene therapy is also applied in the majority of the European countries. The price, of course, is very high. It's from 1.5 million to 2 million per year per patients. But still, you should think not only about the dramatic changes in the disease course, but also on the saving of the money compared to some comparative innovative treatment, and also regarding the lifespan of the patients, because in certain point of time, if you don't treat the patients by gene therapy, you will definitely reach the price of gene therapy by the other medicament and healthcare costs, by hospitalization, by artificial lung ventilation, by the solving of all the associated complication comorbidities. So currently there are 3 gene therapies which are registered, and one is for specific eye disorders, and this is 1 or 2 patients in Slovakia per year.
Thank you.
Okay, we finish in gene therapy. It means that we finish absolutely the top of our medicine possibility, how to change the DNA of patients. However, many thanks to auditorium to stay with us. Also, I'm more than happy to thank you, our panelists, Professor Jeseňák, Professor Valkovič, and Antonio.